I can see y'all. You're a little grainy, but I can see ya.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, we're on our way up, so give us just a minute.
Take your time, honey. It's all right.
Oh, I thought you were going on the lift, Miss Mary. You didn't want to ride on the lift? This is Heather Blanton. She's our author, for those of you who are coming in, and she can hear you, so if you want to say hi. If you want her to see you, you need to look here. Because we can see her that way. But since the projector and the computer were on opposite ends, that's why I have the chair sideways.
How do y'all?
So for her to see you, you might want to you might want to just do head exercises. So.
I wish there was a better way to do this, but it is what it is. So there's a pretty good lag between response time here. So Meredith will probably step all over each other, but that's why. So I'll try to be aware of that.
Okay.
Strikes me as about half a second.
Okay. Well, at least we have audio tonight.
Yeah, really. And I don't sound as bad as I did the other night. I'm not sniffling near as much.
You didn't sound bad the other night either.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I love it.
I have the chair sideways because the camera for her to see us is here, but we have to look that way to see her. So we're going to that's why they're sideways.
I thought we were playing a game.
We might. We may before it's over.
So we don't turn the chairs forward?
No, because the camera's
not understanding the rules. The
camera's here, and I didn't want her to
see her. We can look over here.
I didn't want her to just look at our back, especially my backside. And so if you are talking to her, look at that little circle thing there, and whenever she's talking.
Is she looking at us right now?
Yes.
Yes, I can see you and I can hear you.
All right.
She is. Y'all let Anita and Kathy know what's going on here.
I hope I'm not looking at this for you. If you want to talk to her, look at the camera over there.
Kathy, look at her over
She
here.
is from the camera
She
right
looks
there.
like you're over here, and we look at her over there.
Hello.
Y'all know I'm not techie. You know I'm not good at that sort of thing.
You've done a fabulous job so far.
We have just a couple. We have a couple coming up on the wheelchair lift, so
Okay.
we're just waiting on them.
No worries. The bad thing about this lag is if I say something funny, you guys aren't going to laugh right away. That's very disorienting, I'll tell you. And it's kind of a small group, so that's fun because then I can kind of just go down a couple of rabbit trails and just chat and tell you all the wonderful things God has done for me.
I think we have about 15 of us here. I'm not sure if I need another chair. We have a few more coming up.
Are there any writers in the group?
Or a little chair.
Yeah, are there any writers in the group? Was that a hand?
Aspiring, journaling.
People that want to write devotions, anything. Anybody that has that writer's brain.
Yes, that's you.
I know we have a lot of readers.
Well, I would hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to bore y'all. Has anybody in this group read anything I've written? It's okay if you say no. It's okay, really.
I don't know that they have.
Okay.
Because
You still there?
I have read all of them, but I don't know if everyone else has yet.
Okay, that's fine. Not putting anybody on the spot. I just didn't know who. I'm just trying to get an idea of, who the audience is. I am a best-selling author, but that doesn't mean everybody's bought my books. I heard today that Stephen King has sold over 350 million copies, and in a way that's a lot, but with the global population, that's not a lot. So there are places he could go, people wouldn't know him, so I don't feel so bad. Oh, I did get recognized in my hometown post office one day, though. That was kind of cool. And it wasn't a lady from my hometown.
The only time people recognize me is in the grocery store because they think I work there. I have that happen to me all the time.
Bless you. I think that one. This one. Where is she?
Heather, can you tell them a little bit about where you live?
I am in just outside Raleigh, North Carolina. I lived in Florida till I was 9, and then basically grew up in Western North Carolina, in the mountains. I've traveled out west extensively. I love the West. That's why I write Westerns.
Is there 4 seasons there?
In Raleigh?
Yes.
Every now and then. We are having a really weird February. I think that's why everybody's sick. Because we've hit 80 here, and that's unusual.
That is odd. We just kind of had like summer all day with a couple chilly days.
So Santa Fe, where's
I don't even think I've worn a jacket this year.
Wow, really?
No, we don't.
Where is Santa Fe, Texas?
It's between Houston and Galveston.
Okay, so wow, you are down south.
We're down here by the beach.
Are you guys contemporary fans, or do you like historical fiction?
There was a little bit of a lag. I don't think they heard you. It kind of broke out.
Do you guys read contemporary fiction, historical fiction, a mix of both?
What kind of books do y'all read?
Educational.
The Bible. We have a teacher. She's like, textbooks.
Teacher books.
No.
Can they hear me okay? Meredith, is the sound okay?
Yes, there's a little, it's broken up a few times, but it's pretty good overall.
Okay.
Are they on their way up? Okay. Did she get on there okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So since they're on their way up, I'm going to go ahead and give y'all just a little bit of background about Heather. Y'all know I read. If I could read every day, all day, I would. But anyway, I discovered Heather's books on Amazon because I have a Kindle, and so she was one of the Christian authors that they had featured that was one of the free books. And so I read one of her books for free, and then I think I've bought all of the other ones that I could. And when we went on our cruise a few weeks ago, I told Heather, I said, should I call you Mrs. Blanton instead?
No, call me Heather.
So I told her, I said, I wish your new book was out because I really was hoping I could read it on the cruise. And so she sent me a copy of it to get to read in advance. And so I read it in about an hour on my cruise because I was so excited to read it. But anyway, what I really love about Heather's books, and I have on the website here, it like gives a professional, biography of who she is and what she does. But what I really like about Heather is, I'm stepping on tape. I read a whole lot of Christian historical fiction, especially is my favorite. I do, read obviously other kinds of, Christian books, but Christian fiction and historical fiction is really my favorite. But what I love about Heather's books, is that her stuff is just not Mickey Mousey. It's very real. It deals with real issues. Even though it's set in, the West and in a time past, it's still very relevant to today and to what issues that we deal with. They're very real characters. They're very honest, and she's agreeing. But anyway, so whenever I've read her books, I just felt like a connection. I just felt like I knew her, even though I'd never met her, and now I forced her to know me because I stalked her on Facebook. And I just have loved following her on Facebook and hearing more about her real life story. But her last book that I read, I just really, really loved because it was based on her parents and on their love story. And so it was just a really beautiful book. And every book that I've read that she has written has just been beautifully written, but it's not just a book that you read to just pass the time and you forget about it. It's a book that when you read them, they stay with you and they have a message. And it's just, that's why I love her. And she's obviously not 18. And so she we were kind of chatting one day on Facebook, and she said that she would love to share with our ladies. Heather, they are looking at you. It just doesn't look like they're looking at you.
I can kind of see him. It's okay. It's okay. I'm listening intently.
Okay. But anyway, so we were chatting on Facebook, and she said that she would love to share with our ladies. And she just has a really neat story about how that God had placed dreams in her heart and in her life. And it really, the more that we chatted and when we talked on Tuesday, it just so perfectly, it was like a puzzle that everything that I was feeling like God was saying to me, everything that I was reading and studying, it was going hand in hand with what she's going to share. And so, Heather, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. Why don't you just give us a little bit of background about yourself and about how you got started with writing and your dreams and everything. I'll go ahead and just let you take it over from here.
Okay. Did you step away from the microphone?
No.
Okay, the sound went. I can hear you, but you're faint. Tell you a little bit about myself. Well, let me start by telling y'all the story of my first book, A Lady in Defiance. I have wanted to be a published author since I was 5 years old. And over the years, I've filled composition books with stories. I've worked as a reporter. I've worked in communications. But I never did anything with any of the stories that I wrote. I just never felt led. And then in 1999, my sister passed away from breast cancer. She was only 39 years old, and she was my hero. She overcame a lot in her life. She was an unwed teenage mother and wound up giving her life to the Lord and became a popular speaker. And so when she passed away in 1999, I got this idea for a story about three sisters, because there are three daughters in my family. Susie was our middle sister, and I wanted to write a book based on her life story and dedicate it to her. So in 2000, I started writing the story. My computer picked up a virus, and I lost every bit of it. Well, I had a new baby on the way. Life happened. 2003, I had another baby, and I never got back to the story. And then in, I think it was 2007, I got some freelance work working for a vanity publisher in Raleigh. And I was seeing these authors writing their books and publicizing them, and I was like, I could do that. I really could do that if I would just get with it. And it was like God dropped a piano on me. He said, write that story now. And that was in 2007. By spring of 2008, I had the first draft finished. But I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. I had no idea. I didn't know if I never even thought about publishing it, really. I just was writing it because I felt led to write it. So I found out about a writers conference called the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference. It's over at what used to be the Billy Graham Conference Center. Fortunately, it's only 3 hours away from me, and I got a chance to go to this thing. But it was a new world to me. I didn't know. I mean, this was a big deal. There were going to be editors there. There were going to be publishers there. There were going to be agents there. I was going to have an opportunity to do my elevator pitch. It was overwhelming to me, and it was terrifying because I had no idea what was going to happen. And I have to tell y'all, my son, who was 8 at the time, said something really cool to me. He said, "It's like that scene from the Indiana Jones movie." And I said, "What?" He said, "The Last Crusade, when Indiana Jones has to step out into thin air, but then there's that walkway that catches him." And I was like, oh, that's great. That's God, because that's what God will do, because God's got this. So I went to this conference, and I did my elevator pitch. I got to participate in a critique with author Deb Rainey. It was a very cool experience. And I left the conference with what they call 5 golden arrows. And what a golden arrow is it is an invitation from a publisher to submit your manuscript to them. So that was in the spring of '08. By the fall, I had submitted my manuscripts. I heard back from 3 of them. They rejected me without explanation. One guy I didn't hear back from. I found out later he had been laid off. So he had gone and become a freelance editor. And then the 5th one was Bethany House. And I don't know how much y'all know about your publishing setup, but Bethany is big. They're, I think, the biggest publisher of Christian fiction in the country. And they were nice enough to read it, but they had some criticism for me, and they rejected it. And the first time I read the email from them, I cried. And then the second time I read it, I got mad because I agreed with everything they said except one thing. And one of the things they said was, "And we don't really like how these 3 girls show up in this town right at the moment when there is an empty building available for them." And my first thought was, I'm sorry, what God do you serve? My God is able. I said, if you could chuck your baby into an alligator-infested river and have an Egyptian princess fish him out, I think God could provide an empty building for my sisters. So I took all of their suggestions and edited my manuscript accordingly, but I didn't change that one part because that really bothered me. And since it's a small group, I'll go off on a little rabbit trail here too. So when I was at that writers' conference, there was an agent there named Chip McGregor, and he's the grand poobah of Christian fiction authors, but he's got a scary reputation for being blunt and abrasive. And on the last day of the conference, I finally got up the nerve to ask him a question, and he said, "Well, you could sit at my table at lunch and we could talk about your book." And I said, "Oh, okay, great, thank you." So a couple hours later, I saw him in the hallway, and I had another question for him, and I walked up and I said, "We talked earlier, you asked me to sit at your table for lunch," and he went, "I suggested you sit at my table." And I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to sit at your table when Jesus is sitting at the head of the table, because I'm not sitting at your lunch table. But, so I went to lunch, and I didn't sit with him. And he walked across the cafeteria and came and got me. And took me back to his table, and one of his clients was sitting there, and she was Miss Popularity because she had just sold a couple of novels. And there were some other people there that he knew really well. And I was clearly the redheaded stepchild at this table. It was very intimidating. But finally, the guy was nice enough to give me a chance to talk about my book. And I'm telling him about A Lady in Defiance, and it's based on the sisters, and the town of Defiance is an allegory for the society in which we live today. And his face, he's just glazing over. And I'm like, this is not going well. But it is what it is. So we're getting up and we're walking away. And I cannot believe I said this to the man. But I just stopped and I looked at him and I said, "You know, you should remember this story, because I believe God's got his hand on it." And he looked at me and he said, "Okay, send it to me." So about the same time I got the rejection/criticism back from Bethany House, I got a rejection from Chip. But they both basically said almost exactly the same things. So I needed an editor. So the guy that got laid off, and see, this is God just laying those paving stones down for me to walk on. The guy that got laid off, I contacted him and I said I need an editor. And he said he remembered my story. He remembered my book. Me. And he wanted to read it, but his fee was $1,000 just to read it. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, well. So I was talking to my sister about it, and my older sister, Dawn, and Dawn said, I'll pay it. I want to pay. And I really didn't want to take her money, but a friend of mine said, this story is a tribute to your sister Susan, and this is how your sister Dawn can contribute. So we let her pay his fee, and he got back with me, gave me some great criticism on the book. I did everything he asked me to do. And so I got to this point where I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And I got in touch with him and I said, I've done everything you asked me to do, David. I said, should I go for an agent or should I start submitting around to publishing houses? I said, what's the next step here? And he said, well, if you'd let me, I'd like to recommend you to an agent. That is almost the holy grail of publishing, to be recommended to an agent. The holy grail is actually being published. But getting an agent is a really big deal. So he introduced me to this guy named David Shepard, who runs an agency out of Nashville. So we spent, I guess, the most part of 2010 polishing the proposal. And in 2011, he started sending the manuscript around again. Getting a book published is the slowest process, short of glaciers, on the planet. We're already at 9 years, 99 to 2009. No, 12 years now. And this thing is not published. So I was in school in 2010, and he said, well, after the holidays, I'll start shopping it around. So in 2011, he starts shopping it around. And the reason I say it is so slow is because you go one publisher at a time. They have this thing called right of refusal. They don't take multiple submissions. It's one publisher at a time. So we get into 2012. And in February of 2012, I asked David, I said, David, I would like to self-publish this book. And I'm on the phone. You'll have to wait. My husband just barged in. He's like, what are you doing? So in 2012, February of 2012, I asked my agent if I could self-publish it. I wanted to sell 200 copies for my Relay for Life team. Do you guys have a Relay for Life down there? The American Cancer Society?
Yes.
Okay. So I said 200 copies is my goal. And he said, oh, that shouldn't be a problem. Go ahead. So that was in February. Then I start getting emails from my agent that Bethany House is showing some interest in my story. And I hear that an editor likes it. And the way this works is, if an editor likes your story, it has to go to all the other editors. Every single one of them has to sign off on your story. They have to be in 100% agreement before they'll consider publishing your manuscript. The final step is what they call the publication board. I get this email from my agent that says, your book is going to the contract meeting at the publication board. That's where they will hammer out an offer. Now that sounds pretty cut and dried, right? It's not where they might hammer out an offer. He said where they will hammer out an offer. In May of 2012, I was sitting in my office. I used to be the marketing manager for a motorcycle dealership, and my boss was sitting across from me. And I'm thinking, this is a done deal. I'm so excited. We've celebrated. We've had our dinner. Yes, I'm going to be a published author. I get this email, and I could read the first sentence in my email. And it says, Bethany House has decided to pass on your book. And my boss was sitting across from me, and I had to keep it together for like 5 minutes. And I'm like dying, because I'm like, are you kidding? I'm desperate to pray. So I wait for him to leave. And I go into the bathroom, and I thought I was going to hit the floor. And
that part, because it cut out for a second. Can you repeat the part where we're waiting on you got the email? Start there.
Okay.
It cut out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Technology. So I get this email. I'm looking across my computer at my boss. I see this email come through, and the first line says, Bethany House has decided to pass on your manuscript. One of the hardest moments of my life, because all my life I've wanted to be a published author, as I said. I thought that's what I was shooting for. Then I thought it was a done deal. And my boss sat there for a good 5 minutes, and I'm dying. I want to pray so bad. And he finally leaves, and I go into the bathroom, and I thought I was going to sob, but I don't know how to explain it. But I felt God's presence holding me up, assuring me, as disappointed and as heartbroken as I was, I knew he had this. And I looked up and I said, God, this is hard, but I'm going to trust that you have a plan for me. And I guess his plan was for me to be a published author, just not published with a publisher. A Lady in Defiance went on. I left it up on Amazon. I didn't take it down. A Lady in Defiance went on to sell over 8,000 copies in 2012. To date, that book has sold over 40,000 copies. Sisters, that is all God. That is all God. And Bethany refers to me as the one who got away. So, and it's, it's a competitive field now to be out there. God has kind of let me let go of the desperation to be a published author. I think I just felt like that was the only way that you're validated as a writer. But if you guys go on Amazon and you read the reviews for A Lady in Defiance, it is a very spiritual book. Naomi has an incredible battle on her hands, trying not to be angry at God for changing her plans, And I've had people call my writing a ministry. I've had people tell me in the reviews that it renewed their faith. I've had people tell me that they're praying for the characters when they're reading it. So, there are 3 books in that particular series. Book 3, I kind of it's an ensemble piece. It's about the sisters, and those characters are still there in book 3. But in book 3, I brought in a preacher and a harlot, and in my opinion, it's a really biblical story. But people want more Charles McIntyre, that Southern Scallywag. So I'm going to be working on book 4, and I love history and I love researching, so I wrote a book called Grace Be a Lady, which is based on the Johnson County Range War. If you don't know anything about that, you should research it sometime. I will tell you this, the mainstream media never changes. They did bad things then, they do bad things now. And they manipulated the way people were perceived. They manipulated, like Cattle Kate, the first woman hung in Wyoming. She was not a cattle thief, but they branded her that in the newspapers just because they could get away with it. Fake news. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. But I worked all that into the first book, and I've got 2 more books in that series that I want to write. And then Meredith said something about I don't write Mickey Mouse stuff. That's kind of funny. I think that I did a little Mail Order Bride novella, and it's a very cute story. It was supposed to be part of a collection, so I had some parameters I had to follow. But I think that's the closest I come to Mickey Mouse fiction. But it's still a fun story. But everything else I write pretty much has a heavy-duty message, but without being preachy. That's the one thing I see a lot of in my reviews. People love the story because it's not preachy. And I think that's because, especially with the sisters, their faith is a part of who they are, and it's how they react to stuff. And they don't always react the right way. Flawed characters. I can't write perfect characters because I'm not perfect. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Do you guys have any questions? Is there anything I can... That's my testimony. God is good.
Always have.
Does anybody have questions that they would like to ask or comment? You can ask me and I'll ask her.
I'm not a writer, so if she was an artist, I'd have lots of questions.
Did I miss, does she have a publisher, so the publisher?
No, Heather, she said, I think there was a couple spots where it cut out. She said, so there's not a publisher, you're completely self-published?
I am completely self-published. I kept my literary agent through 2014. And he was trying to sell the sequel to A Lady in Defiance, but all the publishers wanted a standalone book. And I'm not a high-maintenance person. I'm not a diva. I was willing to write what they wanted me to write. But the problem I had was I was getting emails and reviews from women who were really impacted by... One of the sisters is an unwed teenage mother. One sister is a widow. They all had these dynamics that they were, trying to work through, and deepen their faith. And God wasn't giving me a story to write that didn't stick with these characters. And I couldn't do it. So I released my agent and I wrote Hearts in Defiance because it continues the story. So like in the first book, Charles McIntyre is this bad dude in Defiance, and he falls in love with Naomi. In book 2 is how her faith impacts him, and he comes to the point where he understands he can be forgiven, and he's got a lot of bad stuff to be forgiven for, but that's okay. God forgives bad sinners just as much as he forgives the little sinners. So anyway, so that I don't have a publisher, and do what?
Does she have an illustrator?
No. We have an artist, and she wants to know if you have an illustrator.
You know what? I don't do any books that have art in them, but I know people who are looking for illustrators, so I would be happy to forward your information. Absolutely.
I'm just amateur.
She said she's just an amateur.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
That's true.
You know? Yeah. I never stop learning. I take craft classes. I read craft books. Just this morning, I watched a couple of videos on Stephen King and James Patterson. I feel like I'm always a work in progress, and I want to write to the glory of God, and I can't turn out junk. And trust me, I know a lot of people who are turning out junk, and they don't care. Y'all might find this interesting. I've had one of my book covers stolen. They copied it almost exactly. And Amazon runs the algorithms that Amazon uses to help your books be discoverable. I've had people use my name in their, I don't know what it's called, the data, where like, you can game the system if you put people's names or names of their books in your book, because the search engine at Amazon will crawl that. So I've had people use my name, I've had people steal my covers, I've had people steal my plots. And I'm a nobody, really. I mean, there are a lot more authors on Amazon, but there's always somebody out there that'll steal what you got, I guess. And that's okay, God's got that too. I don't worry about piracy.
Are they selling on the Kindle?
Yes.
Yes.
They are. She asked if they were sold on the Kindle.
Yes.
So, but you do have hard copies available as well.
Yeah, I have hard copies of almost everything, and you can get my paperbacks anywhere, Barnes & Noble, anywhere. I'm trying to think. Amazon makes you be exclusive on a lot of stuff so that you can take advantage of some of their sales benefits. So they have the Kindle Unlimited program. So a lot of my books are stuck in that, and it rotates every 90 days. So, but the gist of it is everything's available on Amazon.
I just checked it. So they were asking about your website as well.
It's very simple, ladiesindefiance.com. Was it not simple? Complete silence, crickets.
That was simple.
They laughed. There was just a delay.
Oh, okay. See, I told you, it's disorienting. Well, I've enjoyed the talk, y'all. Thanks for letting me just sit here and rattle on.
Anybody else have questions? No.
Hey, I will say this. I'm very responsive to readers. And sometimes young people will hit me up and ask me for writing advice, and sometimes I've had students write me and ask for help on research papers, and I've had other authors write me and ask for help. So I'm really responsive. If you guys know anybody that's interested in writing, I'm happy to help them any way I can. I got to pass it on.
Does that count for kids and their research papers?
Yeah, it does. Let's foster a love of reading and writing, shall we?
They said she said she's gonna get one of your books and give it a read. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, ladies. I do, truly, truly. Just in case you're wondering, I use a minimum of 2 editors for every book, a minimum of 6 beta readers for every book. Usually it's closer to 20 beta readers now. So I like to think that my books are higher quality than some of the traditionally published stuff that's out there.
She asked what a beta reader is. I'm a beta reader.
someone that would get an advanced reader copy, and then you get feedback from them. So, like, if the book really stinks or you hate that ending and you've got 20 people telling you, that ending really stinks, then you might want to rethink your release date and rewrite some chapters.
Tell her she broke up.
It broke up. We couldn't hear what you said.
A beta reader, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. A beta reader is somebody who gets an advanced reader copy, and you send those out to people and you give feedback on them on the book before you release it. So if there's something questionable, like maybe you're not sure about this ending, and 70% of the people that read it say no, that ending sucks, then you might go back and rewrite some stuff before you release that book. I haven't had that problem yet.
Anybody else?
Does she have any audio?
Do any of them have audio with it? Like the narration?
Yes, A Lady in Defiance, Hearts in Defiance, In Time for Christmas, Grace Be a Lady. Those are the 4 that are out now, and we're working on audiobooks for some others.
How many books do you have total?
7? And I'm going to be releasing 3 novellas this spring and working on 2 novels. So I need to get over this flu and get to writing. I did 1,500 words today. That's okay. That's not bad, but I can do better.
No, like a novella is like a shorter, not a big long. A novella is like 150 pages. Any other questions, anyone? Are you planning on writing any children's books?
It's funny that you asked that. I have a young adult story that I outlined in one day, and that's kind of unusual. So I might be looking at trying to do that in 2017.
I thought you broke up on that.
Shoot. Dang it.
Sorry.
Not children's, but I am thinking about a young adult YA fiction novel.
Okay.
God gave me the story, and I outlined it in one day. And I mean in detail. That's unusual. So I'll be praying about that one.
Anybody else? Okay. I think we're good. Thank you so much for tuning in.
My pleasure, ladies. I appreciate the small, intimate group. Really, that was nice. I hope it was. I hope I was entertaining at least.
We appreciate it.
Sure. Meredith, thank you for
much.
having me. I'm glad I could drop by. I wish I could have come eat with y'all.
It was good.
We had chicken salad, so. All right. Thank you, Heather.
All right, I'm going to go take some cold medicine now, y'all. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.